right. I scheduled this kind of at the last minute. I didn't realize yesterday that I forgot to schedule my Saturday stream, but here we are. We'll see who we get. I definitely can do more time today than I did yesterday. So, and I actually took a minute to kind of look at the state of things. Unlike yesterday, where I was really just jumping in. I know we left off kind of talking about these type ahead menus and how I really only think that people interested in prototyping would need this part of the browser interface. And again, we were just looking at Google here, not even Firefox or Safari. I think I'd like to step away from that, again, for the reasons yesterday of I first want to optimize for just a static mockup kind of experience with this kit. And then, depending on how long that takes, maybe we can add in prototyping. But I also am willing to put that off for a later version. So if we're not working on these type ahead menus, what's left, right? Because this switch to tab button, well, that would be part of that. Show all downloads. Yeah, I think I would actually put these at the bottom as well. And that brings us, because we've already done a lot for the URL input, that brings us to, oh, hold on, tab mini preview. Again, that's a prototyping thing. Just as a reminder, that is something that shows up on hover, right? So not necessarily something you would need in a static mockup. That brings us to all of these icons. So I think today's stream is going to be all about collecting icons from screenshots, whether that's drawing them by hand or going back to the old version of this file, which I have open here. I have a copy of it, and stealing stuff from it and seeing if the glyphs, if the icon shapes themselves are still the same, which I think is what is like, that's how I'm going to start, because drawing everything by hand again would take some time. So we've got Chrome here. Let's start off. Let's just go down the list, right? We need an icon for closing tabs, right? This guy. So I'm going to grab the vector shape itself, copy it to my clipboard, come back over, paste it in, and we will go up to our screenshot. This is a more recent version, right? And I'm going to make it kind of a funky color, something that will stand out. We'll use Figma's purple, and we'll see if this holds up. We're going to have to zoom way in here. It's interesting because I've got 1.5 pixels for the stroke, which seems right, but I don't know if it's 7x7 anymore. It might be 6x6. There we go. Okay, cool. So there's that one, done. Now, what size should the frame be that this lives within, right? We should put this in some sort of frame. Option Command G to do that, to just draw a frame around it. I do want auto layout around this. I would like it to be center. This will probably need to live in, I'm going to put this in actually another frame for now. We'll put this in an auto layout frame with wrapping, just to keep our icons organized. And again, the way that I'm starting with these collections, like we're not even talking about variables right now at this point, we're talking about icon components, but I know that I am first taking care of all of Chrome's interface in light and dark mode. So I want to make sure that I first get all of my icons that I need to build that out for Chrome. So this will be a, we'll call this one Chrome, and then we will, let's see, that will probably live in a section called, we'll call this Chrome icons, and that will live in a section called icons actually. So we'll just call this Chrome, but I'm going to only say, yeah, I'll say icons for now. And then this will be closed tab, and it will be a main component, and we will figure out the dimensions later, right? Because what these dimensions are, it needs to account for like you can see this hover state here. And again, we're first optimizing for a static mockup, but I need to anticipate that there is some space around that X because we have this tiny little circle that appears on hover, right? So we can just eyeball it for now. I do want this to be hug hug, but I'm gonna say probably like 8 by 8. And we'll still, oh, well, if we do hug hug, that's not gonna work. So then it's like, do we use padding? I think there's a way to set this up where, actually maybe it's 10 by 10. I've done this before where, hold on. Where I've like been able to have the outer frame hugging. I can't consistently get it to work. Something else we need to do is make sure that the names are all the same. I'm just gonna go with vector under here. Yeah, and flat black for our icons to start. We'll just leave it fixed for now. Actually, it's probably closer to 12 by 12 because again, just to kind of demonstrate here, if I put like this circle fill behind it, that looks kind of right, you know? So 12 by 12 is where we can start. And I do want auto layout because I want this to be auto layout friendly inside of other frames. I won't be scaling these up or down. This is something I'm going to be writing about actually in my icon post that I've been kind of chipping away at soon. But like, if this was a more generic, like X, like if this was part of a design system and this might get used not only for closing tabs, but closing other things like dialogues or whatever, right? I might want the ability to size this up for certain contexts and then also have the X size up. And then how do we do that? Well, we have to make sure that this is filling all available space, right? And so that's where you saw what it did in the main component here. You might want some padding introduced. There's a way to set it so it's hug. I'll have to figure that out again. Anyway, we've got our Chrome icons. And I'm going to give this a stroke just so I can kind of keep track that this is a set of components here. You know, as we make more of these, yeah. And let's just give this a fixed width of like 200. So that way our icons flow into rows. Okay. So we've got our close icon. Great. What next? The icon for extensions. I believe that is this little puzzle piece guy. And that definitely looks different from before. Oh, I didn't even include it before. I just skipped it entirely. All right. This looks like one I'm going to have to draw by hand, right? And you can see some of my other custom extensions here. I've got 1Password and I can't even remember. That might be like a Google Tag Manager thing for like analytics for my Webflow site. This is one that I will trace over. And this is always fun because I really don't get into doing this kind of stuff often in Figma. Right, we want, oh, that's not what I wanted. 1.5 does seem to be, yeah, the stroke width here. I am going to use my shape building tools. And I'm going to copy the styling of that and this, and we will subtract. Oh, wait, not subtract, right? Is it exclude? What do I want here? Maybe I will give that a fill. I think I want subtract, but that's not the effect I want. Yeah, you can tell that I don't do this often, huh? Perhaps this needs to be in front. Perhaps order matters. Dang it. Okay, well, before figuring that out, I do know that I need these little guys. And I want to combine those. And since this is a union, I know I can go in and like edit these shapes after the fact. So like I could bring this path in. But this, I put that above the union. It feels like I want to subtract, but perhaps not. What happens if this goes inside? Right, it becomes part of it. I guess the alternative is coming in here, editing this rectangle, right? Like adding the points that I need. Oops, yeah, I want that one halfway. And then using, oh, what's the, I want to drag handles off of this. Yeah, using these tools to draw that shape. Oh, that's not quite what I wanted. Okay. Trying to go for like symmetry here. But perhaps this icon's not totally symmetrical. Like maybe this is sitting a little bit higher than it is lower on this like entire vertical side here. Good news is that this can be refined later. So now that we have this union in flat black, we can take this shape and put it in here and draw a frame around it, turn it into an icon, and this is extensions. Now, normally, icon naming wise, right, like this isn't, you wouldn't name the icon after what it represents in the product. You would name it after the physical thing it's depicting from like real life. And in this case, this looks like a puzzle piece to me. So that would be the proper name. But again, this is such a specific thing that I'm building. It's not going to be extended. It's not going to, we're not going to try and, you know, use it as like a little design system to build on top of Chrome and imagine what Chrome, the browser, might become. We just want to represent reality. And so we can be more explicit in our naming, like this is for extensions. This is the icon you use to access your browser extensions. Otherwise, if I was building this as a UI kit, as a library for product designers, it would be called puzzle piece, because how a puzzle piece, what a puzzle piece represents, how it is used in the product, that meaning could evolve over time as designers push the product forward. But in my case, not what we're doing. So we've got different sizes here. That's another thing that I'm okay with, for that same reason as the naming, right? 16 by 16, 12 by 12. Normally, I would want all the icons to have the same dimensions from the get-go. But in this case, this is not going to show up any other place in the interface. At least I don't think. So I'm cool with that. Like it gets used in one spot. You could even argue that it shouldn't be a component for that reason, right? Because if it only shows up once, if it's not repeated, if we do not need to keep multiple instances synchronized, then it doesn't need to be a component. But the reason why, I mean, generally, right? Like that's a good rule of thumb. But I think another reason, even if you're like, okay, this never shows up anywhere else, but it is going to be interactive, right? Like I can hover over this. This is an icon button. And when I build icon button, I want to be able to swap in icons. I want to be able to, you know, exchange them for one another, right? And so that's a good reason for something to be a component, even if it only shows up once. Cool. Extensions. Next, new tab. Really easy, just a plus symbol. I expect that looks the same. Vector 6 here. Messy naming on my part. Oh my gosh, 9.99 by 11. I was really going for a, yeah, okay, this is not quite the same. I'm gonna draw a new one, and we can see that we've got these like squared off ends. And again, we probably want 1.5. That looks correct. Cool. Easy. 10 by 10 here. That looks like it's probably about the same dimensions as the X. Actually, I probably could have taken that X that I drew earlier for closing tabs and just rotated the thing. This, by the way, probably also wants to have squared off ends as well. Where does that happen? Endpoint square. Oh, nope, that was 6 by 6. So it's a little different. Oh. Hmm. Interesting. I'm thinking about what I was just saying about building icon button and how even if this extension icon only shows up once, I need it to be a component so I can swap it into an icon button. But if the icons all have different sizes, right, then that's going to affect the icon button. So maybe I do need uniform sizes, and I am thinking too far ahead with this closed tab icon, right? With it being 12 by 12 here. This should just be hugging, because that padding around, that belongs to, that it does not belong to the icon. That belongs to that interactive, like tiny icon button for closing tabs. So I'm changing that to be hug by hug, or to just be hugging. Okay, so again, add tab. In a different situation, this would just be plus, right? This is like a mathematical symbol. Add addition. Okay, we've got that. New tab. Side panel. What is side panel? It might not have shown up in that screenshot, so let's go back to real life. Side panel might have been a Safari only thing. I am not seeing side panel here. I don't think this was it. I don't see also an immediate option to open a side panel. If I go to Safari here, show sidebar, okay. Perhaps it was also a Firefox thing? Did I call it a panel? I could have. I think that that might be a Safari only thing, and we will call it sidebar. And since it's a Safari only thing, we will use blue. I think that's how we're using that, right? Yes. Okay, so that is going to be a Safari only icon. Back page, go back to the previous page. That is going to be universal. And let's see how much these have changed. Oops. Meant to change the color here. Again, it looks like we're going from rounded to square endpoints. Even the nose of that looks pointy. And well, yeah, first let's line it up on the tail end. And let's scale this down a bit because it looks like it's been scaled down. Let's also move these endpoints back one. That looks correct. And I expect that these will be similar. Now, again, actually, yeah, I want to use this as a demo. So in my upcoming icon blog post, something that I talk about, a problem that often comes up when people are working with, and they're building for the first time, icons that have directionality, right? Like up, down, left, right. They'll be building those icons, right? This would be like arrow right, right? Because it's pointing to the right. And then when they're building out the other directions, they will grab a copy of it, detach, right? Because this is going to be a new separate component. They might rename it arrow down. And this is where the problem is. People will rotate the parent frame. That is not what you're meant to do, because look what happens. If I am now working with an instance of arrow right, I'm going to put these in a container, and then I want to switch, or I want to swap to arrow down, it does not change its orientation because I did not rotate this in the correct spot. I should have rotated it on the vector layer. So I'm going to change the rotation back to 0 on the parent frame, right? Because before it was -90. We're going to go back to 0 rotation for the parent frame, but I am going to rotate the vector shape. And now this is displaying correctly, right? I'll show you again. So I'm grabbing an instance of arrow right, but what I actually want is arrow down. Now it works. So you want to rotate at this level, at the vector level, not the parent frame. The parent frame should be consistent across all your icons. Make your edits to the vector shapes instead. In our case, for the browser, we just need arrows left and right, I believe. So again, we'll rotate the vector, and this will be arrow left. And both of these will get put in here. And these aren't going to be left and right, but this will be page forward, right? Web page, page back. And we've got those. Page forward and page back, refresh. Yes. This looks like it has changed. Oh my, what am I doing in here? Wow, gosh, it's cool to kind of go back to like a really old file and see how you once built things. I think I've gotten better at building stuff, I'd hope. So this got smaller. Let's see if 10 by 10, nope, 11. And the shape of, gosh, not even 10 by 10, right? Oh, this is tough. Let's try moving. Oh my gosh. Okay, what have I done in here? Interesting. I'm going to get rid of some of these nodes. There are many of them. I don't want to move that one. Oh, and it's in such a weird freaking spot. I wish that there was like a layers panel for the nodes. There we go. Okay. So I've got my circle shape. I want to move it back over. Ah, okay, actually this is worth just doing from scratch. So we're going to just draw the circle, get rid of the stroke, or the fill, excuse me. And let's see if we can size that up. So it looks like here is where we want to add an extra point. And I think I don't want this on the inside. I think I want this on the center. I think that will help me be more accurate. So I'm going to size that down and kind of nudge this around until I get, yes, that looks like it will give me the path that I want. And again, I want 1.5 pixels. Yeah. That is it. Okay. So again, we want to come in and we want to add a point on the path. And it's kind of more like here. What I'm trying to do is eyeball Yeah, that is what I'm eyeballing. And I want to extend another off of there. And then I need to delete this path in between those areas. And actually, it looks like this needs to come down. So I want to add another point. We're going to come in. I need to turn off my snapping to geometry and pixel grids. Just unsnap on everything. No, I don't want to extend off of that one. I just want to add a point here. So that way I can delete that point. And I am going to bring this over. No, it's not worth it. I'm going to just let that go. Okay. This is interesting because like you can see I'm not quite quite there. Oh, hey, Mihai, I'm sorry. To be more accurate and keep your circle editable, you can use the sweep option. I'm not familiar with the sweep option. And I'm sorry, I didn't see when those messages came in if you are talking about this refresh icon that I'm building. But I think something else I want to keep in mind with these is that, oh God, decimals. These are so small, right? Like we're talking like really, really small. So I'm okay with a few inconsistencies, I suppose, or not perfect. And I guess that's kind of cool about these community files, right? Is I can set these up, and if someone wants to make a copy of the file and then come in and like really perfect the icons, they can do that. Just gonna clean up my names here, make sure everything's called vector. Oh, I know what you're talking about. I've seen people do this. I forgot about that. Draw a circle, and then where there's the options for rotation. Yeah, that sweep thing. I know what you mean. Like there's like, it's like how people make like pie charts and stuff. I might come back to that. I'm gonna leave a comment. Yeah, I don't know how to like activate that sweeping part. But we have something good enough for now. So we've got refresh, bookmarking pages for Chrome is a star shape. And it looks like, because like the two arms of the star are slightly angled up, that makes me think I could probably just use Figma's star because I know it's like the same sort of shape, but let's grab the old one and let's see if it holds. It looks like it's not as dramatic. Oh, and I want to turn my snapping back on. Ooh. Oh, okay. This is, it's going to get dangerous. Nope. Okay. Once again, it's not quite, I'm going to let it go. Good enough for me. I will let kit users, again, perfect these if they desire. Oh my gosh, am I naming here? Hold on. So this is refresh, not ellipse 4. Let's be serious about our icon names. This is going to be bookmark, vector. Don't edit, just use the small white circle handle at the 3 o'clock of the circle. Okay, let's try it. Oh! I didn't notice this thing. Ha ha ha. All right. Oh, neato. Okay, we'll go back. We'll go back and try it. Thank you. Once again, your patience is like, you have a lot of patience. All right, let's turn this white. Line this guy up. I think, does this work when it's center? Yeah. Oh, nope. That's what I want. Okay. Right. So I would get rid of this little Pac-Man mouth shape. And you can pull the middle circle to collapse. Oh, oh my God, that's so cool. Ah, okay, so now though, if that's not quite where I want that, can I... Yeah, so I need to get a little bit more accurate here with like where this ends. I need to put this node in the correct spot so that way when I go to draw those ends, I wonder if this needs to... I think that's it. Yeah, that's a lot closer. I guess that's kind of more or less where I ended up. Let's compare. I'm going to cut that so it's on my clipboard. Let's see how everybody looks. And again, we want 1.5. Why not? Let's put this guy in there. Oh, I don't think I follow when you say don't edit. But I'm happy with the result. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, spilling out. Yeah, with the center stroke, it spills out of its frame. We will see how that affects things later. Good tip though on the sweeping. Totally forgot about that feature. Okay, we got bookmarks. URL secure. I don't think I have that. If we go to a site that does have like HTTPS in it, I guess that lives in here. It's behind this little menu. This is site information. I think this used to be, if we go back to this like older one that I did, they used to display that more directly in the URL bar. But now they don't, and it's this little guy. And you know what? I think when I was... Second path should be a reverse. This will leave it. Oh, yeah, like an editable. Yeah. I see what you mean. Okay. Yes. So if we go back again, and that would be a good feature, I think, for folks using this file, is to have these things be editable. So if they want to improve them, they can. We've got 11 by 11 here. We want 10 by 10. And I think what you're describing, Mihai, is, oh, yeah, we will set up the arc. Something like this. And then right? Pull that out, but don't add to the path, just draw on top of it is what I think you're saying. And I'm gonna again snap to pixel grid off. Well, it's like I want, no, I'm gonna leave it on. So like this is a totally separate shape because we've got now this guy and this guy. And if I turn snap to pixel grid off, I actually should be able to move this down and over. And then union these. And now, as you said, the whole thing's editable. And that would be called vector. If I'm sticking to my naming, I will copy that to my clipboard, paste that in, get rid of the old guy, update the color to black. And what's great about this is that even though the layer structure is technically different, and I've got these kind of, you know, whatever unedited names here, right? Like inside of this vector for extensions, I've got like rectangle 9, right? But then add to tab, it's just vector. I still won't lose my color overrides. I really hope. Like if I switch, refresh, which has a different layer structure than add tab, because the first level is the same. No! I thought that that would work. Do they all have to be unions? Oh my gosh. No, I just did this the other day and it worked perfectly. I was not losing color overrides. Hold on. What if I, this is something else I want to address in, yeah, that worked. Because this and this have the same. Right, I could adjust the bounding box. So they all have to be unions? Well, that's kind of, okay. I can't union, if it's just, like, what's a good example of that? Like the star. There's not really a need for this to be a union. I don't even have the option. So what do you do in the few cases where you don't need a union? How to? I wonder if, I mean, outline the stroke. Oh, but isn't that the whole point of like having these be editable is like keeping the stroke keeps them updatable and editable? That seems to be, I mean, I'm definitely for outlining icons. I prefer that because I think you get more predictability. But if we're going to do this whole union thing and let folks, you know, update and edit, then I would think that keeping them as paths with strokes is the way. But yeah, let me, oh, not flatten. That's not what you said. Outline. I still can't union this. I guess, are you, maybe, Mihai, you're talking about an alternate way to manage these. Like I could just flatten this whole thing, right? I'm going to come back to that. Need to figure out how to unionize single, or our icons are going to unionize. Good for them. Single layer vectors. Oh, union the 2 stars? That's a clever... Okay, just copy paste one on top of the other. Now you've got union. Oh my gosh. But then, yeah, can I... And you just get rid of one. Oh my gosh, hold on. What a workaround. Hold up. Now, but the real test is going to be, does it swap? Right, so let's center that up. I'm going to redraw the frame around that. So now I should be able to... Actually, hold on. I want to run a little bit of a test. I'm going to undo back to where we had... Yes, that shape. I'm going to duplicate this. We'll call this bookmark unionized. Right, this is going to be bookmark regular. And in bookmark regular, we will get rid of our union path. And in bookmark unionized, we will get rid of our regular path. We want to center this guy up. I don't really care that it's spilling out of the frame right now. What I want to test is swapping stuff. So let's take, again, add tab, which is not unionized, right? And let's take this refresh icon, which is unionized. And we're going to duplicate each of them. So this is our, you know, let's make notes here. Bring that down to 8. So let's call this place instance. That's all we did was place instances. And then we're going to copy these again, and we are going to override the color, right? We go from black to red, and then copy them again. We are going to swap to unionized icon. So we want to go from an ununionized icon to a unionized one. And we're going to use our stars. So we're going to swap both of these. You lose the color, which we expected because this is not unionized. This should remain red when I swap to bookmark unionized. Yes, it does. Now, swap to regular icon, right? And we're going to grab from the same pile. So again, one that is not unionized would be page forward. It stays red, right? Remember, we went from here to here. This is also going to get swapped for page forward. Yes, and it gets lost, right? Because they don't match up. Now, yeah, so that is the trick. Oh my gosh. What a wealth of knowledge you are, Mihai. Placing them both on top of each other just to get access to the the Boolean shape building features, but then delete the layer you don't need. That's wild. It would have taken me a really long time to get there on my own. So now let's get rid of bookmark regular. This is just going to become bookmark. And let's fix up, I bet if we fix up page forward, this will turn red, because you can see that the red is in the selection colors on this instance, even though it's not displaying on the canvas. So what I'm going to do is exactly what we just did that Mihai recommended, right? I'm going to ungroup this entirely. I'm going to copy paste. We have 2 arrows sitting on top of each other. Unionize them, right? But then delete one of them. There's no need to keep 2 layers, but now we have our union. Cut that to my clipboard, paste it back into page forward, delete the old vector shape, right? Delete the old vector shape, page forward. And if I reset, that didn't quite do what I thought it would do. Yeah, agreed. Reading your comment about from a design system point of view, it's more efficient to have unions. Would agree. Um, oh, and the reason, you know why this didn't work just now? Because the naming's wrong. Vector. And so if I come in here and I don't want to detach, I think I want to reset a very specific part of this instance. Yeah, the two arrows could be two different shapes. I really wanted that to work though just now. Okay, so that I wanted this to turn red is what I thought would happen. It won't even let me reset. But if we do that same thing again, right? Grab from this set, and let's just swap to page forward. Add tab, page forward. That gets lost because this is not unionized, but this should be fine. Yes. Ah, amazing. Okay. So let's do that for everybody. Again, taking the shape, putting two of them on top of each other, union, get rid of one of them, update the name, unless you want to stick to it being union. Put that back inside, get rid of the old stuff. Now we've got a unionized closed tab icon. This is unionized, this is not. Put this in, two of them, union, delete one layer, rename, vector, cut, paste, delete, unionized, except it is way off on the side. This doesn't have auto layout on it. Neither does this. I think we want auto layout on our icons. I think we do. Feels right. We'll find out. But what was that? Yeah, page back. Oops. Hug. Hug. This is unionized. And oh, bookmark, bookmark. No, we just need the one. Okay, what a hack. If you want to do the arrows like this, then you could create a copy, remove them, get a caret icon. Oh, you totally could. That could keep things in sync. Well, yeah. And yeah, we've seen that. We saw that at, I believe, I can't remember if it was this year's config or last year's config, but I think it was the Font Awesome team talking about, you know, kind of atomizing their icons to do that exact thing where a chevron is just, it's like three nodes, right? But that could be built on top of, if you add a fourth node, then you can get the tail extending off of the chevron to get your arrow. But this itself was an instance. So that way, if the chevron ever changed, so too would the chevron inside of the icon. And so they have this like modular iconography system that keeps things in shape, consistent, I guess. And they're using this union thing, which at first it's really wild. I for some reason in the past was like, this whole union thing doesn't work for me. Like it wasn't preserving my icon overrides was what I thought originally, but now I'm really into it as a method. I don't know what was holding me back from investing in that in the past. Anyway, thank you, Mihai, for the comments. I think before we got into that and like preserving the colors, I was gonna go after this shape, which I believe when I oh, yep, all the frames to hug. Oh, not everybody even has auto layout. Who's missing? This one. These two. And not everybody is set to hug. There we go. Before I started this live build series, I was attempting to build these browsers. I did read your Twitter DM, but I need to go back and reread it. It was late last night, so I did see it though. Thank you. But yeah, before I was streaming this, I was just trying to build this thing on my own, and I have a memory of building that icon, so I'm actually going to go to Chrome. And I think this was at a point in time when the version of Chrome that I was looking at did have that. No, it still had this little funky lock. But then I've got like new stuff. There it is. Yeah, I did build this. And hey, here you go. It's oh, well, I thought it was a union. But no, we can do the same thing. So I'm going to steal this glyph, put it down here, but we are going to like kind of break this apart. And to do that, I'm just going to steal the shapes. Oh, but these are all flattened. That's not what I want. Oh, and I want snapping. Oh my god, give it back. So let's put a stroke. Let's do 1.5 and probably on the center. That's a little too big. Okay. Not quite. Yeah, so then all of these can continue to be editable. This is weirdly like 2 pixels thick. Okay, it's kind of offset, but now that we have some shapes, so I did end up rebuilding that. I'm going to come back to the browser screenshot, and we are going to try and trace this. Get rid of that fill. No, it is 1.5. This is a weird one. Weird dimensions. No matter. We can hang. So this is going to be site information, and that is specific to Chrome. Add auto layout. I gotta say, I don't like the auto layout. I don't like the smart auto layout thing, trying to guess, like, oh, you want that absolute positioned, or oh, this is going to be fixed or fill, or like, I just want, I'm really, really used to the old setup where you apply auto layout, it's set to hug hug, and that's it consistently. Because often those are the settings I want, often. But when it's trying to guess and be smart, I feel like this might not be true, this might not be reality, but my perception is that it is incorrectly guessing more often. And I'm having to like update those settings anyway. So it's like not saving me time. I could be wrong. I could just be sensitive to like, oh, the product is a little different from before, and I just have to get used to that, but we will see. Okay. Cool. That is a Chrome specific one, I think. Let's see though. So Safari has the little lock. Oh, okay. I guess I wasn't going off of my list. Site information. this is Chrome specific. And URL secure, unsecure. Those are going to be, we will need those for Firefox and Safari, but not for Chrome. So I'm going to skip for now those guys. I need a way to keep track of this stuff. We will do strike through. Skipping these because for Chrome, again, those are hidden behind a click interaction, right? Whether the connection is secure or not. And I want to just start with Chrome to keep this manageable. So we will come back and do these for Firefox and Safari. The internet icon, that looks like something that is also going to be Safari or Firefox specific. I'm picturing like, I can see it in my mind. It's like a globe, like with the grid, but I'm not remembering where I saw that. And it could be behind something. Where does that belong? It might have been in here. Oh, that's frustrating. I don't remember where I saw that. But we don't appear to need it for Chrome. So that's okay. So we will skip that. Chevron right, chevron down. I think those are Safari specific ones. Right. Yeah, because page back, page forward. That's what they look like. Oh, this is misleading though, because it's like I'm not really complete with these. These haven't really been completed because I don't have them for all all of the browsers. Ugh, project management. Like I should just get specific here. So I've got these done for Chrome, but I don't have them done for Safari, and we will also call them, oh, my naming's not even consistent, page back, page forward, page back, page forward. And what do we need for Firefox, just while we're thinking about it? Those are also going to be arrows, and they're probably going to be a different style, so we might as well just duplicate these and turn them orange for Safari. Ah, get out of here. Oh my gosh. How do I get out of that? Okay. Ugh, well now... I'm needing to reorganize this. I think I do want, yeah, like a different... I need to do some list management here for a minute. Document, or no, on this page, yeah. So the stuff that we've gotten done is for Chrome. Oh my god, this is annoying. Okay, thank goodness for escape. Okay, so we do not have close tab done for Firefox, and we do not have it done for, come on, duplicate. I don't want two fills. Duplicate the layer. We do not have close tab done for Firefox and Safari. What about extensions? Yeah, common naming conventions are great. Oh, maybe you're talking about page back, page forward. If there's other places you see me being inconsistent, say so though. I am all about clear naming. What do extensions look like in Safari? I'm sure it's possible. I just don't know where that lives in the interface, and I will have to investigate that. And I will use my to-do list as a reminder for that. Firefox extension icon, Safari extension icon, new tab, same deal. Orange, blue. Sidebar is Safari specific, and it is not done. I think that was a mistake. I'm going to put all the page backs together, which means all the page forwards are together, like so. And kind of want to keep my order here of Chrome, Safari, Firefox. Okay, refreshing page. We will need that for all. Bookmarking pages, that will be needed for everybody. Oops. Back in Chrome is an arrow, but Safari is a chevron. Right, and the way that I'm gonna keep that consistent is like the shape can change, but we're gonna name the icon after what the action is, as best we can. So things, in some cases we start with a verb like close, but then in some cases we start with like what will be, which is like new tab. Or like the thing that you're accessing, like extensions, or like, hey, you're gonna do something to the page. I don't know. We'll tighten it up. Okay, site information. I don't think Safari has that, but I think Firefox does. Site information for google.com. Oh, is the same as, okay, so we've got this repeat guy here. So site information does not exist for, I mean, it kind of does. Maybe that's what this is. It's like this little dialogue. Like, what if I click that? It doesn't quite, it's not quite there. So purposefully leaving out Safari site information. Okay, URL secure, I think that does exist for everybody, right? And this kind of brings us back. And we are purposefully going to skip Chrome for now. Because you can only access that little icon through prototyping, and we're not doing Firefox and Safari yet. Unsecure, that's going to be the same. If I go to an unsecure URL, that's where this shows up. So again, everybody will need one of these. We do not need it immediately. That internet icon. Oh, running into my own screenshots. We cannot find it. Need to relocate. add tab group. What? What is a tab group? Oh, what? Well, I need to relocate that too. Sharing. That seems like one that we will need. But perhaps not for Chrome. All right. Share is going to be specific to Safari. Excuse me, Safari on the bottom, Firefox on top. So those two. Folder icon. Oh, this is tab groups. Ha. Folders, though. Oh, look at all these little fun icons. Holy smokes. Okay. User profile is kind of more like, that's a Chrome specific one. And it's not an icon, right? I guess if I was logged out, how do I log you out? I don't want to close it. Might need to investigate that later, but I don't think this is an icon. It's kind of like the icon button. Gosh. Like this is definitely an icon button. And we're gonna need to swap in this frame. I guess it kind of is an icon. I don't really want to, it's not, it's really not, but it will be useful for it to, 19 by 19, don't do that to me. Okay, yeah, 20 by 20. And it's just gonna be like an image fill, right? User profile picture. And we will need an empty state. I will need to figure out what that is. In fact, actually, no, yeah, it's its own guy because we're gonna have, there's gonna be a property here. Holy smokes. Oh, come on, 20 by 20. Be serious. Okay, there we go. This property is gonna be like has profile picture. And the default state will be false, otherwise true. I guess I could use my own profile picture. Wow, that's huge. And I suppose you'd want that as like a style, right? So this will be, these are profile pictures. And folks will just get that for free. And in this case, the fill is, oh golly, all the old stuff. I mean, does that need to be a variant property? What are we doing? Yeah, because when I find out what the empty state is, and this is helpful because it allows you, if somebody wanted to do some prototyping where being logged in was part of the prototype experience, this gives you a Boolean to target, right? Like you could hook this up to even a collection that's like, is logged in as a mode, logged in, logged out mode, right? And this could be hooked up to that. So I think there's some utility there. This is going to be its own thing. It's going to live. I don't want it to live with the icons. It's just a Chrome specific thing. So that's just going to live there. Okay. Chrome specific, and then the menu. I think everybody has a menu. This is the menu. Maybe Safari doesn't have one, but Firefox does. This is like the same guy. So we've got one for Chrome, we've got one for Firefox, and we need that one. This is finally when, yeah, we've arrived at one that we do need. I'm going to cross that out because we just made that. Icon menu is the 3 dots, and that is one that I might have again from my most recent attempt here. Yes. Again, this is going to be an easy one to do a union for because we have 3 separate shapes. And I think, yeah, in this case, I just did the 3 different ellipses. I wonder if, though, it would be better, and I'd want to be snapping to the grid again, for me to place. Oh, no, I guess that doesn't work. Okay, yeah, I guess they do have to be ellipses. Ah, stop. Three by three is a little big. Let's actually compare. Let's just draw over this. Oh, this. Okay. We're gonna do that. Oops. Vector, and you are menu, and auto layout, and probably a square shape. 14 by 14. Oh, no, no, it's just gonna be that. So I'll probably need to, in my icon button, I'll have an extra layer to get these to like behave the way I want. Because we've got all these radically different dimensions. Okay, that's menu for Chrome. Done. And yeah, that got us to the end of the icon list. So I think what will be more I'm wondering if I want to group these like into color groups. That could be more useful. Rather than grouping them by icon. I just need to remember that like I purposefully have left some things out. Like there's ones like add tab group is a Safari only thing. So I need to not be like, well, where is that for Firefox? Or I think there's like a, or like menu, like where's the Safari menu? I just need to remember that I purposefully did not put that in the list because I didn't need to. Yeah, I think this is going to be better. How are you planning on swapping the icons between the browsers with a mode? Yes, that is where these Boolean variables are going to come in. So my Chrome only icons, or like, because I'm going to have, excuse me, because I'm going to have uh, like page back as 3 separate components. There's going to be Chrome page back, Firefox page back, Safari page back. I can hook those up to these Booleans that, you know, exist across these different modes. So when you're switching into Chrome mode, Safari and Firefox's page back icons are going to get hidden away. They'll be in the layer architecture. They will be present, but they'll be hidden. So, and in the correct spots. Ooh, there's an issue? Let me know. I want to get ahead. That's why I'm planning. Curious to see if you can replicate the same problem. I can try. Okay, yeah, grouping by color makes me feel a lot better. Mihai, while you are describing the problem, I'm actually going to take a quick break and I will be back within 5 minutes. Okay, I'm back. And okay, and you're describing the problem to replicate, you need 2 modes set up. Let's say Chrome and Safari. Create a button component with the icon component inside. Yeah, let's do it. I am happy to run a little test. So let's do page forward, label button. Will give us some padding and not a nonsense space between number and a little bit of styling so we can see what we're doing. Great, we've got a button. And let's create a brush. Oh, we can use this collection. Okay, and I'm going to delete that for now. Okay, the icon should have a Boolean prop swap between Chrome and Safari. Sure. I think. A Boolean property, or do you mean a variant property? Because what I'm thinking of doing here, again, like we'll have Chrome only, Firefox only, right? Let's ignore Safari. Goodness gracious. I'll even delete this mode for now. So yes, yes, and then just to demonstrate, like we'll use our colors here. Chrome, and let's say this is Firefox. Oh, it's a variant. And they will, yeah, I don't want to, I think, do it that way. I think that's gonna be more fragile than using the Booleans. I think I know what you're describing, where for your method, right, we have our icons. These would be like nested icons. Create component set. So we have page forward, and this is Chrome. This is Firefox, and then we target property 1 here, or this would just be like browser, right? Yeah, I'm fuzzy. Like we'll need a string variable. I guess this would be like browser only, right? This would be like Chrome, Firefox, or no, we can just call this browser Alice's method, Mihai's method. The way that I'm going to do it is hook up the visibility to Chrome only, Firefox only. So when I'm using instances of this and I switch from Chrome to Firefox, right, we're just changing which layers are visible. In this one, I think both of these get hooked up to, oh, I have the wrong ones in here. We just have a single instance of page forward, right? And then we hook up this to browser. And so in yours, we can get the exact same effect, Firefox, but I think, right. What? Is it less layers? Hold on. I don't know. I'm actually asking. My assumption is no. Let's use layer counter. I mean, I'm definitely down for less layers. So this is going to be, what do we got here? 8 layers on this guy, right? And then, yeah, 11, I thought. Because, and this is going to be, we have to remember too that this is going to be potentially like even more nesting. So I think not only is this more fragile because we have to have like the exact spelling, and it gets kind of weird because this also means that the placement in the composition has to be exactly the same. For example, this one gives me the flexibility to put the Firefox, when I'm in Firefox mode, and if page forward, like the exact same concept of like, okay, go forward a page, go backwards a page, but it needs to appear somewhere else in the interface. This gives me the option to do that. And I think where that's going to show up is like bookmarks, right? Or even refreshing the page. So in Chrome, when I refresh the page, that happens outside of the URL bar. And that's this, it's very similar placement for Safari, or for Firefox, but for Safari, it's inside the URL bar. And so I need the ability to move, to place these in the proper position in the composition. And so I'm going to go with this Boolean method instead of the string method. But I'm glad you brought that up because I don't think I've articulated that. And it was good to see, yeah, that this is more only slightly more costly in layers. And you know what, actually? I don't like to work in absolutes with this kind of stuff. I think that can be unhelpful. It should be counting hidden layers, yes. And we can count this ourselves manually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. But what I was saying about what I wanted to start saying was that I think there's actually room for both of these methods in a build, in the same build, right? Because there may be places where this is advantageous, using the strings. I don't know what it is yet, but I suspect I might run into something where I want to use a mix of these potentially. And it will be really interesting to encounter that. I hope I do. I think I'm right because rarely have I seen, like, I think it's very rare actually that there is an approach to building something or managing something in Figma that is like universally like, this is the way that everybody should be doing it. I think that there's room for each and every method because, as always, every single person or company or team is going to want to optimize for different things. Some teams are going to be really, really, really sensitive to layer count. Oh, and mine, yes. Sorry. Let's extend all of these. Ah, okay, interesting though. Oh, well, you have to remember that. Okay, so when we manually count these layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, there's fewer layers here, but we have to include unique variants because this page forward, this instance, this comes along for the ride. So it's like we have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How do we get there? 6, 7, 8, 9. Where does 11 come from? There's 3 Boolean operations, 3 vectors, making 6, 2 components. It's important to count the variants that this comes along with because they are rendered in the background. And that's why variant explosion is so dangerous for file memory, right? That is how Figma calculates file memory. And so I really, like, this is really crucial. Like, if we turn this off, or not, if we turn this off, include unique variants, then we do get a true count of what's immediately on the canvas, but this includes stuff that's in the background. You can see that what we get with this is those extra Boolean operations happening up here. And we also get what gets added, right? More vectors, right? Because all that stuff is nested up here. So that's where the extra layers are coming from, the extra 6. But anyway. Oh, I can send you some docs, or maybe we can look it up. But oh, there's a really good talk on it. Hold on, I think I have on my blog, actually. I think I may have linked to it. It might have actually been in this one. Memory, or no, let's look for variants in here. Shoot. There is a talk from Figma's Schema conference where they talk about variant explosion. Hold on, I'm going to look for that off to the side here on YouTube. Figma variant explosion. It was from one of their developers from Schema. Oh, I'll have to go back. I'll have to go back through my stuff to find it. But yeah, it contributes to the file memory. Two booleans, but one is hidden on your side. Okay, right on. Yeah, I wish I could remember. It was these two engineers, two women, on stage at Schema, and they were kind of explaining. I think this is like after component properties came out, and they were explaining how introducing like Boolean show hide component properties is more efficient than variant Boolean properties. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you for asking. Um, uh, yeah, you'll probably find it before I do, but I will make sure that that is linked in the description because I found it to be a really, like, it was just technical enough that I could follow along and helped me understand, like, kind of what's happening in Figma as, like, things are rendering and, like, how information gets stored. But it wasn't so technical that I was getting lost, which yeah, I'm not that technical a person. So I appreciated the talk. Anyway, yeah, I think there's room for both of these. I think there's advantages. There's times where you might want, like, this feels like it's like really targeted, it's really opinionated, like no, I want a lot of tight control. Not that this isn't, but like this locks you into a certain part of the composition. I would be unable to move if I want to see Firefox show up on the other side of the label. I'd actually have to probably do something like I would have to detach it from the string variable, right? And then at that point, like, I'm not really taking advantage of that method. But there may be cases where I really want that locked in. So this was good. I'm really glad you brought that up. I will delete these. Okay, 10:30. Been at it an hour and a half, right? Yeah, hour and a half. We've got our icons for Chrome done. I think we could start building a tab. I think we could start building a tab. That is so exciting to me. Because that's going to be like a really important piece of interface here. And that means we get to start doing stuff with color, right? And font sizes. Oh my gosh, like we're going to have to figure out like all the grays and all the, ooh, it's going to be great. Okay. So tabs need labels and a favicon and the close icon. Oh, well, no, yeah, before we build the tab, let's start building that icon button. So we know that we need an instance of this inside something else. And this is going to be our close tab guy. I think we said that this was like 12 by 12. Oops, I'm sorry. No, we're talking about padding here. But the overall dimensions, let's do a fixed width because I am not going to play with decimals in here. And in fact, since we're doing a fixed width, we don't even need to worry about padding necessarily. We just need to make sure that that icon is centered. So let's put a really big corner radius on this and a fill. 14 actually might be it. Let's grab an instance and double check. Whoa. Let's get, oh my God. There we go. A screenshot of what that looks like. Maybe we need it a wee bit bigger. We do. 16 by 16. Cool. Just put that there for safekeeping. And we are going to start, we need light mode. Let me grab my system settings here. Grab a screenshot. So that way we get both. Cool. And can get these hover states. Sweet. And like I said, I'm just gonna do flat hex codes. Like we're not gonna try and like do down, or I guess you could say up one level where it's just like a color collection. We could, I think that'd be more like systematic, but no. Okay. So I think I need to blow up all these old collections because yeah, you can see I was kind of trying to do it before. I'm starting from scratch because the point of this is to show folks, oops, I did not want to create a collection just now, to show folks how to build this from nothing, because I will be selling this for money. And so we need to, I want people to be able to build this on their own if they do not want to pay money. I often do not want to pay money for things, so I get it. Okay, so we agreed. I agreed with myself at the beginning that the first thing we're doing is a color theme collection, right? We're going to follow the plan here. Color themes. Light is going to be the default. Dark will be, and there's a plugin. If we decide to make dark mode the default, we can do that to switch that around. And this is how we're going to organize things. So for our tab, one of the very first color variables we need is background default. And I'm going to ignore, again, that C colon, because this was just a clue for me about what type of variable, what kind of variable I needed. And this needs to live in a group called active. Oh, I'm sorry. This needs to be in a group called active. This needs to be in a group called tab. Oh God. This is the, making groups and dealing with groups is kind of treacherous here. Okay. Let's follow the structure here. So we've got browser, right? Chrome, tab, active. There we are. Okay, and then we have light and dark mode. So, oh, and this is for our tab. We need to be talking about first icon button. Or perhaps close button. Or I don't need to bring that up again. Close tab is a component, right? And so I'm naming it after that. So let's get light mode figured out. The background color in the default state, right, is actually probably just going to be empty. Like it won't have a fill. How about the foreground? Duplicate. F for foreground. That is going to be the color of the icon. And in this case, man, this is a lot of interface. I'm switching back to dark mode. We can just use our color picker to grab that color. Okay, what about both of these, but not default, but in their hovering states, right? And we are going to need a variant for this. Oh God, and I'm putting this in the wrong place. Foreground. we said it's going to be nothing. It's going to be empty, right? Or background. We can grab this 1F and put it in the foreground. And then we can combine these as variants. This is our close tab. We have a state property. Default is, of course, our default, but then we need hover, right? And let's again put kind of some reasonable stuff here. Okay, what does the background look like on hover? It's going to look like this gray. So we can use our color picker and grab that. What about the foreground on hover? Does that change? It looks like no. So then there's a question of, do we need it? Perhaps not. We can probably delete that variable. It just doesn't change. And so let's actually hook up our interactions here. Oh. So weird that the hidden layers aren't counted, but instances are, right? Yeah. And here's why I think, and they'll probably explain this in that video. Figma, if I was offline, if I was not connected to the internet, I would still be able to swap variants on an instance because all of them have rendered. As soon as you place a component on the canvas, all of the variants in the set are loaded in the background, and that allows you to instantaneously swap variants. And so I think that's why they get counted, the variants that are in the background ready and waiting for you get counted in the overall layer count. I think that's what's going on there. I remember that being the explanation. Okay, so we've got our while hovering set up. Let's see, what does that look like? It looks like it's an instantaneous switch. Okay, so that's light mode. Let's start applying these, right? So in our design, we're going to need a fill, and we are going to want to use from our libraries, browser, Chrome, close tab, active, background default, right? And then for the foreground, we want foreground default, right? Because this is our default state, so we know we're grabbing the right one. Here, we also need a fill, but now we want background hover because this is our hover state, right? We decided that because the foreground does not change on hover, we can just reuse the default. So there we go. But we do not have dark mode set up. So let's grab those values. What does the background look like on dark mode? Probably the same. We can probably just drop that to 0. I would expect the behavior to be the same, but the foreground, what does that look like? Oh, and this is for, we need to remember that this is for, oops. This is for an active tab, right? This is for a tab that we are on. And so yeah, those are the colors. So let's grab this. But this is also possible for a tab that we are not on, right? So we can grab that. And the background hover is this. Now, in real life, there's probably like some opacity system going on here. Yes, the hidden layers are loaded. Well, no, they're there, but they don't have variants. That's the difference. The hidden layers are definitely like, you know, they're on the canvas, but because the variant set is smaller, right? They are lighter weight. If I hadn't deleted everything, I guess we could go back and show that. I wonder if I should take a crack at like kind of explaining, like do like a explainer video or explainer blog post on that. Coming back to our active tab, so we need inactive, right? There's close tab, but we need inactive, which I think was part of our plan, right? If we go back to our component plan, we have the state, we just did this property, right? So I can cross that out. But then we need, oh, I'm sorry, wrong one. Think, ooh, okay, this is interesting because closed tab is kind of dependent on this. So we might need to make some overrides. Or maybe this is where we get into transparencies. Oh my God. Oh, this is so tricky, guys, and so fun. But we do have light and dark mode working technically. Like if you check this out, I can put this in a frame and I can now access color themes. Light, it doesn't do anything because that's the default, and dark. And if I gave this a dark background, we would see that that works. And I could put these in a prototype and there is a hover state set up. So this should be working, right? There it is. Cool. So we've got our little close tab button for light and dark mode on an active tab. But check this out, like this gray is not this gray. Very, very different. What I'm wondering is when you have a tab that is set to active, we're going to need a different close button. Which makes me think we could use separate components, because check this out, inactive. Active tab, inactive tab, because on the variants of the tab, we don't have to use the same nested components across all of those variants in active tab. So let's do that same exercise. We're going to duplicate this group, inactive. And hopefully I can show you what I mean. So for an inactive tab in light mode, again, the background is probably, in dark mode, is just going to be nothing. It's 0% opacity. But it's probably a lighter gray. So in light mode, let's grab, yep, 4.7, not 1F, right? Cool. And let's have these changing in real time. Let's update these. So instead of our active foreground default, we want our inactive. Instead of background hover from our active, we want background hover from our inactive, and then we will choose the same here. So now these will update in real time as we color pick in our variables, right? So this is taken care of, this is taken care of. What about our hover state? Or foreground default in dark mode, right? This is the one we want. Oops. Color pick. C7, right? That's different. We got E3, C7. So if we come back here, the background while we're hovering. I need to grab that. Oh, nice. It's still that blue. I bet that's like themable. And oh, that was dark mode. I want light mode. Bam. Cool. So check this out. So now we've got our active tab, close tab button, our inactive tab. And these are so closely related, right? We could and they're tied together with the same icons, right? If ever this closed tab icon changes, it would update across these. We could also set like the dimensions, right? Because they are separate components. And if we wanted to make sure that the dimensions, right, the 16 by 16 was always consistent, we would set up a number variable for those. But what collection would that live in, right? Because this 16 by 16 is not concerned with what color theme we are in. And because this is a Chrome specific component, we also don't really care what browser we're in. This would almost be, this is a modeless thing that we would want to control. And so we might have a kind of, it wouldn't be like a primitive level collection, but it would just kind of be like, I don't know what you'd call it. But anyway, let's kind of move on to building the tab, because now we have this small but important, really important piece of interface sorted out. So let's begin building our tab. And for our tab, again, we are going to need, I'm going to put it in the Chrome collection here. We're going to create a color variable called background default, but this needs to be in a group called tab. And we can minimize this. Yeah. Actually, I'm kind of wanting to name these collections a bit closer to, yeah. To the components. Like I really want these in sync. Which means we can ungroup. Oh, hold on, that's not what I wanted. Like I really want it to be a 1-for-1. Cool. Okay. For our tabs, it is just going to be a single tab component. I am not going to split active versus inactive across separate components for this. It's just going to be the tab. So we're going to need a close icon. We need a label, and then we're going to need that favicon, right? What might the favicon look like? I don't think the favicon is interactive, so it can just, it's kind of just like an image. It's just going to be a frame with a fill. Favicon. We shall name it that. We'll keep, oh God, I didn't want to go full screen with my variables. No, thank you. Kind of just want it docked here at the bottom of the screen. And maybe right here, so that way I can get other dialogues open. Okay, so we've got our favicon. How big is a favicon? I don't think they are always circles. I think they just sometimes happen to be. But yeah, 16 by 16. Cool. Tab. Now, we do have to deal with these little feet things at some point, right? But we will get this to take shape soon. For now, what is, for a tab, let's first set up the component architecture. So let's actually bring this over to our component inventory and see what we need here. So we need a property for state, right? We want variance here. So our first property is going to be state. Tabs have a default state and tabs have a hover state. So that's that one. Done. Tabs can also be active and inactive, and you can hover on active and inactive tabs. So we need to duplicate both of these. And that is actually a new property, the new variant property. Active is what we said, and let's see. And that's going to be true, false. So let's say that these first two are inactive tabs, false. But these next two are active tabs, true. Now, I need to start styling these because they all look the same right now, and it is difficult to keep up. So I just want to make sure, yeah, this needs to be default. This needs to be hover. So we've got these two properties. We will deal with active neighbor later. Favicon component swap. We might not need that. We always need a favicon, you know? Cool. Okay, we're doing color. Let's bring back the variables. Let's go into our tab. What does our tab look like? Oh, this is where we do need those subgroups, right? So like you can almost think of when we're in a component named group like tab, this subgroup should map to a property like active, right? Because we have a property called active. And let's do capitals to be consistent. So in our default state for an active tab, which is this variant here, in light mode, what does that look like? It's white. I bet that's just pure white. Great. Let's apply that variable to that variant because right now it doesn't have it. So we go to our tab, active, background default. Okay. I'm going to give our favicons a black stroke for now so I don't lose track of them. Okay. What about when it's in its hover state? Let's duplicate that. Hover. That's going to be this one. When we are hovering on an active tab in light mode, nothing happens. And so we actually don't need that. Why would we make a separate variable? I mean, in the future, if Chrome does decide to have some sort of hover on active tabs, we could add that variable at that time, but I don't think it's worth doing right now. So this one is going to use the same background default fill. What about the foreground, right? The stuff on top, which is going to be the label and only the label because we have already dealt with the icon colors. So we're going to duplicate this. Foreground. And let's grab the color of the text. Active. And again, foreground. Great. Oh, here's what I meant. Here's what I meant earlier. So check this out. These are our active tabs. But look, this is not our, these are our active closed tab icons, right? These. Yeah, and they need to be the other ones. Inactive, right? Because this variant is active false. So we want these to be used here and these to be used here. Because watch, when we, I'm looking at like this light blue color, and I think that's actually going to get controlled by like this whole background kind of belongs to that layer, right? We have a layer list. The tab bar is going to get a fill. So actually, this is probably going to remain transparent. And we can still, so do we need to control that with a variable if it remains transparent? Maybe not. I do kind of want to sort out the transparency thing, actually. Let's go back to our closed tabs. Let's get this and this sorted out. I think, let's just go simply first. What does this look like? Black. Like, is it 10% opacity? Is this the same gray? It's not. Well, let's actually, hold on. I want to get like a side by side. Hello. Okay, 14%. I think that could be it. Now, does 14% hold up over here? It does. Okay, so what does that mean? It means for our active tab, let's go back. Oh, it's so easy to get lost. The background on hover of an active tab we know is black at 14%. And same here. This is black at 14%. Because now I'm wondering, does that mean that these should still be separate? They now share a value. And like, let's look at dark mode. Let's do that same exercise. Is it just white 14%? Not quite. I think we need to go up to 16%. And what about over here? Let's get the flat color. Yeah. Boy, howdy. Okay, so now we have so what's changing between them really? It's the foreground. But otherwise, the background default and the background hover are exactly the same. Why would you repeat those variables if that's the case? I don't think there's a good reason to. So let's get rid of this inactive tab group. Let's just call it closed tab. Oh, shoot. Can't do that yet. Yeah, we need to go back to how it was before. So we're going to have a group within this called active. And a group here, inactive. Nest this here. We can get rid of this one now. And this is just going to be closed tab. Foreground changes, background does not, and we need to make sure that our missing ones now get taken care of. So this used to be, we select this, yeah. We want Power, close tab, background, inactive, hover. Oh, I've gotten myself lost. No, because they're the same. It's just going to be close tab, background, hover. Same for you. But there's another one missing. What's missing here? The foreground. Right, is just going to be that guy. So that is more variable efficient. Right, so the background is what's shared across both of these groups. The default state and the hover state. But the foreground, the icon itself changes. And so that's where we need to separate these into groups. I'm thinking about like how I can scale this up. Like, can I maintain that? It's another kind of problem of when do you make something a group versus like include it in the variable name. Right on. I think that's technically everything for color, right? Like, let's go back to our plan, our map, because everything else is going to be browser specific. Like, obviously, you can look at this and say, okay, that looks nothing like how it's supposed to look. Like, we've got a tab for Chrome, and it looks like this, and like those are your colors that you've picked. Mm-hmm. And but like the font size, all of that comes later. That's going to be like the font size, the font family, that is all going to change based on what browser mode we're in. And we're not talking about browser mode right now. We are talking about color theme, and we are talking about Chrome specifically. So, oh, the gradient stops. Yes. So yeah, we've deviated from the plan already, which is great. But we got this taken care of. I think we can eliminate these from our list. These variables have been built, but those gradient stops in light and dark mode. So let's, oh, and let's like get our label positioning figured out, y'all. Like it doesn't sit in the center like that. What are we doing? 28? Now that's going to change. This will get hooked up to a variable at some point to control that, but I can assure you it is not 28. It's probably something like 4. And let's have these filling, or at a fixed width, and let's have the labels be filling all available space, because that's kind of, I think, what we're going to need them to do. In fact, let's also have the labels be really long, and we want them to truncate. We want 1 line maximum, really super duper long label that goes on for a very long time. That should be plenty long. Yes. But we don't want the ... Not really. Right? we don't want the text to truncate. We actually want this to be set to hug for all of them. But that pushes that that X out, right? So that's where we need to have, eventually clip contents is going to get turned on here. But before we do that, and I'm going to move this up a bit, grab these components. Before we do that, I want to get those gradient stops built. So this is going to be our gradient, or let's call it label overflow gradient. And I think we're going to reference what we just built with like the background, right? And this is just going to be a regular layer. This doesn't need to be a component. So let's first talk about an inactive tab. Let's drop this in. Oops. Let's drop this in. And we want this to be absolute positioned. It's going to be pinned to the right and the top and bottom. Move it to the right there, right? Because this is going to need to and probably be a bit offset, right? Because we need the text to flow behind it. So when we set up our gradient, we want to rotate this. And I'd like for the stops here to be aligned with what's happening on the canvas. So I'm actually going to, rotate again. So we've got those mapped out. We need this side to be transparent. And we want it to match the background that we're using. So if we are looking at our inactive tab right now, all we have is the foreground, but the background's the same across. So let's put in, oh gosh. Yeah, so within our active tab, we need like this gradient stop. We're going to need another one. Oh, dang it. Hold on. I need to get an example going. Really super long Google search that is long. And I want to see what that looks like for an inactive tab. Okay, I think we're getting to a point where we kind of need to, we can't just have this be transparent. Like we're going to need this color for the whole tab group layer. And so within Chrome, we're going to make another color variable, and we will call this like, we're just going to call it background because it's going to go in a group called, where's our little hashtag? Hold on. Yeah. Copy, paste. Are you kidding me? Hash. Cross? How did I get? What is this Unicode symbol? Oh, I hope it works in here. Sometimes emojis are like really, some inputs like don't take all of these, or they'll turn them into emojis instead of like these Unicode symbols, which is frustrating. I think it's in here. Technical symbols. There it is. Yes. So this is going to be tab bar. The background of the tab bar in light and dark mode. So we can get this established. in light mode, it's this pretty blue. In dark mode, it's this color. Okay. And I think what we need here is the ability to fade this out. So like at 0%, right? We need that for a gradient stop. Now this doesn't really belong. This is where it's like, I wish I could alias in this hex value and then have a number variable for the opacity. It is what it is. So for this one, we need to put in the background at 0% here. Just going to type in 0. Right? And then our close icon has been pushed all the way over. Oh my gosh. So let's also absolute position that because we want it at the end of the frame here. And we could actually, its fill has been decided. I wonder if actually what we do is extend this, put this at 50%, right? If that takes care of us. Because now, check it out, when I clip contents on this guy, we get the effect that we want. And this works in both light and dark mode. So I should be able to take this, label overflow gradient, paste it in here, give that same treatment to the close icon. And again, I think I want actually to have that be centered vertically. Now we're on our active one, right? So this is going to be different. When I paste in this here, right, we need the white. And so when we go to our tab, we have background default, and then we need also background default at 0%. Did I put the percentage in over here? Yeah. So in this case, because again, it's not a component, like it's just a frame, I can update what these variables are referencing. Like these can be different. So instead, here, we want background default at 0%. And then this one, we want the opaque one, background default. Oh, but that did not quite do what I wanted. I think I picked... Oh, why is it doing that? Why is it not fading? Oh, did I not actually put it at 0%? I probably didn't. This is the active tab. Yeah, this is not at 0%. Once I do that, we get the effect we want. Same deal here. Absolute position. And absolute position, the close icon. And clip contents. Now again, is the spacing correct? Absolutely not. It's not correct. But we've got the effect we want, right? Like if I... Oh, and let's set up... hover states. Well, actually, and so since active tabs don't really have a hover state, we don't need that. Let's do 16 here. Okay. And I think I want to not have auto layout, and I'd like to rearrange this. I like to have my states running horizontally. So this is an inactive tab, active false, active true, and default hover, right? So we need to go from default while hovering, and something happens in an inactive tab while you're hovering on it, right? You get this, like you get this thing. Is that the same blue across? No, it's not. And so let's set up our variables for that. We need also, like the whole tab is interactive, but we kind of need the layer structure to change. We need all of this to be in another layer. We'll call this the hover container, which is going to do nothing when we're not hovering, right? This is our default variant, but you can see I've just really messed up. So let's change this back to label. We don't want it running vertically. We want things running horizontally. And I think we lost our absolute positioning of these two elements. So let's get those absolute positioned and positioned to the right. And then we also lost that spacing here. We need a little bit of padding, I think. Like this will all get adjusted. But this is what I want to do is like the hover container. We need this to be set to hug. Hover container should be set to fill. Right? Because like we need some sort of inner shape for this blue. But like you can see that I can activate that without even actually touching it. Like, so that's what I'm kind of mimicking here. And so actually what I'm going to do, hold on, and we've messed some stuff up here. We lost some of our, again, absolute positioning, goodness. And we don't want to fill on this. I'm actually going to delete that variant and just duplicate this. We know that this is active state false, but this is going to be our hover. And this is where we want to apply on the hover container. It does need that fill, and it does need to be this darker blue, and that's going to be controlled with a variable. So on a tab, in its inactive state, yeah, this is going to be inner background, hover, light mode, dark mode. Where'd you go? Inner, right? And nothing happens on, that doesn't happen for an active tab. Active tabs don't have hover states. Again, the shape is incorrect. Doesn't matter. We will address that when we get to the browsers. And this tab component, this is meant to be used across. This, I would really like this to work across browsers. Like you should just have a tab component, but set it in Chrome mode, set it in Safari mode, whatever, because then you won't lose your overrides. Yet another reason for Safari for like separate tabs to be a thing. And we're going to have to contend with this whole like, here, the close button's on the left, right? Because this is a Mac. And this is a product that's only available for Mac, and that's how they do their Windows controls. But Chrome, it's on the right. I will be back in less than 5 minutes, much less than 5 minutes. Okay, back to talking about tabs. That's where this separate tab setup, I think, is going to be most helpful. Again, if I go to my settings and I put these in compact, actually, no, it'll be fine either way. Like, that's a really similar composition. Oh my gosh, to be able to refresh in a tab. Is that the same for... Oh my god. Okay, well, that's going to be a Safari specific thing, like being able to refresh within a tab. Like, that's so wild. So this is both your URL bar and your tab. Holy smokes. Compact is weird. Sorry, no disrespect. But like, all right. So we've got a tab, and we have our state and our active properties sorted out. And we have our gradient stops. Now hold on, we had 1 and 2. Why did we have... Oh, we didn't name our variable. These are variable names. So yeah, we deviated again because gradient stop 1 and 2, like the ends of the stops, it's different depending on some different things, right? Like, we needed to set up these backgrounds for the tab bars. I'm wondering if I want to like do some aliasing and actually make extra variables just so it's clear. Like on a tab. And this is for an inactive tab. Forgot to do that. Keep our order the same. Like, inactive should probably... Oh, yeah, this needs to change, right? This is not the right color. So this is for an inactive tab. So we need, what did we call that? Label overflow. And then we'll need another one, label overflow at 0%. And I kind of want this to reference, oops, inner, oh my, the fact that this search is not focused when I click on libraries. Every time. I want that to be aliased, but then I won't be able to do it here because I need That's annoying. But that allows me to update these. Right, so now if I have a really long label, we're good. Oh, and this is now no longer where I want clip contents. I want it here. And I have a different layer structure over here. So let's fix this. Let's put that in a frame. This is the hover container. We want it flowing this way. We want this. That has to be fixed, but that has to be filled. I want to make sure all my stuff. That's where we want clip contents. I think that's how I want it. Let's do the same. I'm already getting nervous about keeping track of like what variables are applied to what. And I want a good way to manage that because that is where I get lost. And it's kind of what I wanted this plan to do for me over here. But I've already deviated. Like you can see that as I've started to execute on a component that I'm not using quite the same names, like with these gradient stops. That's not how I'm handling them. These are complete. I might not even be using the same names. Or like, yeah, let's compare. So we do have a tab group and we do have active and inactive. But yeah, like background fault at 0%. That's for my gradient stop. And I haven't even done dark mode. Holy smokes. Okay, let's do that. I might wrap up after that. Pull this out a little bit more. Yeah, okay. So for that looks good. Close tab, but for the tab itself, the background default is white in light mode. Oh, and this is for an active tab, so let's get specific. Active tab. That is not going to be the same color in dark mode. An active tab in dark mode is this gray. And then we want that same thing at 0% because this is what our gradient uses. And then the foreground right? The label is that. I'll be interested to see if that's different. We need a foreground here for foreground default. I'll do that in a minute. Label overflow, inner background hover for dark mode. Right. Same guy, but then we have to do this 0%. And then we also need, for our inactive tabs, we need foreground, default, and hover. So we have foreground, default, color, foreground, hover. So in light mode, an inactive tab has a label that uses this gray. And in dark mode, an inactive tab has a label that uses that gray, C7. What about when you're hovering on them? In light mode, when you hover on an inactive tab, I don't have an example for that. So let's come back over here. Light. Gotta wait for my keystroke app to get out of the way. Oh no, I lost my screenshot. I'm gonna actually just move this down here. Okay, back to dark mode for my Figma interface. Okay, foreground, hover. That is the color. It's the same. Let's see if it's the same in dark mode though. Here's one. Let's get even more in here. It maybe changes. Hold on. No, it's still C7. Okay, so it doesn't change. And so we can just call this foreground actually. And I think we can do that somewhere else too, where, yeah, we just call it foreground because it's not changing across states. So let's now make sure those get applied. So we've got the label here of our default state inactive tab. And so when we come in here, we want to go into our tab. We're looking at our foreground. And this is inactive. I'm going to copy that styling and apply it here. And then this is our active tab. I'm actually going to apply that styling just because I know that puts me closer to where I want to be in this picker menu. Foreground, default. And I think, again, yeah, because that one doesn't have a hover state. We can just do that. So now, in light and dark mode, let's set this up. Let's give this like a black background. Let's give this a white background. And then we will put this one specifically in dark mode. Okay, good. Meow. Oh, but hold on. This is not correct. I think. I mean, that's right. But if this is an inactive tab that is at rest, right? Much like this, we need it to use oh yes, the tab bar, because it will have that color. So that is correct. Never mind. Like this is more accurate here if we go like that. Or actually for this one, it's going to be like this. So this is what it's starting to look like. And if we should get, I mean, those hover states are working. That's great. But Why is this? I guess the hover state got busted while hovering. Let's get that set up. This should be working now. Oh, and the labels are all different. Let's change that back to the label. My cat is asking for lunch. Good, good. Yes. That is looking how I want it to look. And then these are our favicons. All right. I am going to feed my cat lunch and myself. If you watched this and your name's not Mihai, thanks for joining. Super big shout out to Mihai, who I assume is maybe left at this point. But what a trick with that union icon thing and setting up that whole, just learning more every day. So really appreciative of, the Figma design community. There's a lot of helpful nerds out there. And I'm excited. We made so much progress today. We got icons for Chrome pretty much sorted. We have working tabs for Chrome in light and dark mode. We need to figure out the spacing and the typography for like the label and all that. That is going to be to come when we get into the browser stuff. But yeah, we've got the beginnings of it. So as always, going to aim for Fridays and Saturdays for stream days to be somewhat consistent. I will do my best to schedule those in advance so you can, if you would like to join, you can plan around that. And yeah, have a good one. Stay safe. Have a good weekend.